currently a professor at the International Buddhist Studies College at the Chulalongkorn Ratchavidyalaya University. The name is really long. It comes from a royal name in Thailand, but it's my new job. I used to be a professor of philosophy at the Department of Philosophy at Chulalongkorn University. I still maintain the affiliation with that university. So basically, I'm having two affiliations. So I'm going to talk about various ways in which Buddhism and AI can be related. And as I am originally from philosophy, much of my talk will be based on ideas and sub-branches of philosophy in which we can find AI and Buddhism kind of interacting. So I'm going to talk first about metaphysics, the problem of consciousness and personhood, which are perennial problems in philosophy, and how Buddhism can play a role in all this. And then the second topic will be on ethics. AI ethics is kind of on everybody's lips nowadays. And I'm going to talk also about regulations and how Buddhism can contribute to the global thinking on regulations and on ethical theory and on ethical problems and so on. The next topic will be about possibility of technological solution to the Buddhist problem. So one of the questions that I have been thinking about for the past few years is about robot enlightenment. I'm going to talk more about this very, very soon. So the question is whether robots or AI systems can achieve enlightenment. And of course, enlightenment is the supreme goal of Buddhism, is the state where one achieves total perfection. So, to me at least, it's the kind of question that merits thinking deeply about. Can robots achieve such state of enlightenment? And then I'm going to talk about apps on mobile phones that provide aids in meditation. So it is obvious that these apps employ AI in one form or another. And then there are apps that help the practitioner in their meditation. So this is one way in which Buddhism and AI are very much related. So we are going to talk about that. And then another question is also really interesting. Can there be a drug, a kind of medication that could help us to achieve enlightenment directly? It's the kind of question that people who are engaged in Buddhism and AI and technology and Buddhism and so on, we are really grappling with this question. So I'm going to talk about that and then some kind of conclusion. So the first topic is on metaphysics. And I think perhaps the most important problem in metaphysics with regards to Buddhism and AI concerns the problem of consciousness. So I know that I am conscious, I'm aware that I'm sitting in a chair and then talking on Zoom to Caitlin, and that I'm aware that I'm thinking and so on. But do AI systems have the same capability I mean, are they conscious in one form or another? This is a fascinating question, especially nowadays when we have systems like ChatGPT and so on, these large language models, which seem to be able to understand whatever we talk to them. So one of the hallmarks of being conscious is to be able to understand and to use language. But now ChatGPT can do that. I mean, apparently they can do that. So are we going to conclude that they are conscious? This is the kind of problem that philosophers are really talking about. So the big problem is whether AI can achieve, can attain, can have consciousness. Perhaps not right now, but in the long run. This problem is very difficult because there is still a lot of disagreement as to what consciousness really means. So one philosopher may look at consciousness one way, another may look at the same word, and they have a different conception as to what this word really means. But for us, I mean, we don't need to go into that kind of details. For us, I think it suffices to hold, commonsensically that consciousness is whatever we have, as long as we are awake and we know what we are doing. And we wonder, I mean, naturally, we wonder whether ChatGPT or other LLMs can do the same. The prevailing attitude, I think it's true, is that they are only statistical machines, and whatever they answer to us in terms of they are being able to respond through language, through our queries, our questions, and so on, are only a result of blind, statistical machines. But perhaps, I mean, some philosophers look at this as being conscious. Being conscious is just being able to respond to questions using language. And since we cannot enter the mind of other people anyway, so the outward behavior is all we have. So philosophers are debating about this. But suppose there is a robot that acts and talks exactly like we do. And for us, I mean, for at least some of us who are Star Trek fans, we all know and love, the character Data in one of the episodes, in one of the incarnations of the Star Trek series. So should we suppose Data to be conscious? I mean, in the story, Data really wants to be a human being. I mean, he really wants to have emotions. And in some episodes that I have watched, he seems to have kind of genuine emotions. I mean, he cries and he feels the kind of emotional intensity that we all do. So imagine in the future a humanoid robot having that kind of emotion. So should we conclude that they are conscious, that they have the same kind of consciousness as we do? So these are the problems. And Buddhism also talks about consciousness as one of the 5 aggregates. So the 5 aggregates is a technical term which Buddhists use to analyze the self. So the question is, what is the self? And the answer is that the self is whatever is composed of these 5 aggregates, namely body, feelings, recognition, mental formation, and sense perception. The details can be kind of baffling, for those who are not into Buddhism much, or who are really new to Buddhism. But to put the matter in easy way, the self is whatever is composed of body and mind. So sense perception, mental formation are mental activities, and then there's the body. So all these put together is the self, and nothing more of these 5 aggregates are the self. So in this case, the idea seems to be that any being, and perhaps robots can be included, that have these 5 aggregates, so they can be conscious. So if they show they have feelings, they show they have recognition, and so on, they have sense perceptions and so on, we can conclude, according to Buddhism, that that being showing these signs are conscious. So that is basically what Buddhism has to say. So when a robot or an AI system can show those signs, the next question is, can a robot experience suffering? The answer should be yes, because if they have feelings and sense perception and so on, they can experience suffering. And the goal of being a Buddhist is to practice so that one achieves the state of not being in suffering, not suffering at all. So that is the state of liberation. So in the time that we have, that is where Buddhism comes in when it comes to the problem of consciousness, which is really fascinating. Now we go to the next topic, where Buddhism and AI do really intersect, which is ethics. The question is whether we can design a virtuous or an ethical robot or AI system. A very important question. And I believe that it is possible to design a virtuous robot. It depends, of course, on how we define virtues. And in my previous works, I have tried to do just that, using Buddhism as a guideline. So in my 2020 book, An Ethics of AI and Robotics, a Buddhist Viewpoint, I propose that we really can design a virtuous robot using Buddhist thought as a guideline. So as a practitioner, as a program where he or she can follow in order to progress step by step toward the eventual goal of achieving enlightenment or nirvana, the state where one is completely free from any form of suffering. So can a machine system or an AI system. So we can lay out according to what I said in the book. I still believe that. So it is the same for the AI system, in that we can lay out, a kind of a path for the system to follow step by step in order that it eventually arrive at its perfection state. And the perfection state is called machine enlightenment in the book. So AI ethics is about searching for ethical norms that govern the design, production, and use of AI, right? Buddhist ethics is about cultivating oneself in order eventually to achieve the goal, as I said earlier. So the two can come together, right? Buddhist AI ethics is about, developing pathways so that the robot can at least imitate cultivating oneself in human terms in order for them to achieve at the goal that we set to be the supreme standard, ethical standard for the robot. So Buddhist ethics can then inform the thinking in AI ethics, in that the ethical norms can be defined by looking whether and how following those norms can lead the practitioner to achieve the goal. So as I said earlier, in this sense, it looks possible to design AI systems that are virtuous. And here, of course, the virtues are defined by referring to the Buddhist terminology and the Buddhist system. In other words, we are looking for AI systems whose values are aligned with our own. So there's a question of whether we should follow Buddhism or whether we should follow other forms of ethical theory. Perhaps somebody might not agree with Buddhism. Somebody might prefer the standard Western theory in ethics, like utilitarianism or Kantian ethics. I am thinking about this, and my belief, my thinking at the moment is that everything is based on the nature of the AI system itself, and everything is also based on the nature of us human beings. So it's the premise of Buddhist thinking that every one of us desires happiness, whatever happiness means. I mean, but it's the state that naturally everyone wants to achieve. And part of that, of course, is that everybody wants to avoid suffering. They are just, opposite sides. So I'm thinking that we can use this very basic situation, basic condition of human beings as a kind of a foundation for developing a system of ethics, which I think can convince people to see the point of this Buddhist system. So that, currently that is my project right now. So apart from ethics, we also talk about regulation, which is based on ethics anyway. So here the ethical analysis can function also as basis for regulation. Could be law, could be any softer forms of regulation. For example, should there be a regulation for the use of ChatGPT? People are starting to talk about this. In Thailand, where I live, there's no law yet, so it's a free game. So people can use ChatGPT. The only guardrails for ChatGPT is their own internal guardrails, which is installed when it is designed by the company that designed it. But is that enough? There's still an open question. So a research topic, different global regions have different regulations, even though the core remains the same. The core is comprised of such principles as privacy, explainability, lack of bias, and so on. But apart from that, there are a lot of divergences, differences among um, the vast number of AI ethics guidelines that are in existence. So can there be a truly global regulation? I think there must be, because AI really transcends natural boundaries. But how do we achieve that? Is still an open question. So we move on to this is a fascinating topic, which is technological solution to religious problem. What I have in mind is this question whether technology or AI can fix our own problems. The use of technology has been around in Buddhist practices for a long time. What I mean is that Buddhism, in principle, is not against the use of technology. And in fact, Buddhist monks, practitioners have employed various kinds of technical devices throughout the ages. So we are thinking about the gongs and the bells that monks are using during their chants, the drums, and some use the water clocks in some temples to measure the time and so on. So these have been around for ages. And I don't see anything in principle that would oppose, the Buddhists to kind of stay away from modern technology, including AI. So part of this kind of affinity of Buddhism with technology can be found in the proliferation of meditation apps and also the use of medication. A story is this: someone met the Dalai Lama, head of the Tibetan Buddhism, and they asked the Dalai Lama if there was a drug that would help someone achieve nirvana immediately, without having to do any practice. Would you recommend it? The Dalai Lama said immediately, yes, of course. Because the bottom line, the most important thing is for human beings, for us to achieve this goal, which is, the state where genuine happiness is attained. So, any means would be good if they are efficacious in bringing about the goal. So AI can help Buddhist practitioners in many ways. If it is possible for there to be a drug, for example, that help someone achieve enlightenment, then achieving enlightenment would appear to be a physical phenomenon, because it would be the result of the drug, right? In this case, if that is the case, and which I think we can support that, we can argue for that. In which case, designing AI systems such that they eventually achieve enlightenment, following the steps created earlier by us human beings, would not seem to be far-fetched, right? If nirvana is kind of a physical phenomenon, or at least explainable through physical means, that in principle would not be something that AI would not achieve. And basically, if it is physical, if it is explainable through physical means, in principle, steps can be laid out for AI systems, robots, and so on to achieve the same type of goal. So my current thinking goes like that. So another important, very important aspect in which Buddhism and AI can work together concern the role that AI can play to create the kind of society that is just, fair, and equal. And Buddhism has a direct role to play in that. There's nothing in principle that would prevent Buddhism from supporting the use of AI to promote social equality. So, in other words, using AI to create the kind of goods that would make our lives, our societies, our communities better would be, something that Buddhism would wholeheartedly support. The aim of Buddhism, as I said, is the relief of or release from suffering, which fits well with the program of promoting social equality. So I think I have spent some time talking about, very, very roughly in kind of, overall kind of overview of the various ways in which Buddhism and AI can be related. And if you have any questions, you can find me, I'm active on social media and so on. And just send me questions. I'm willing to answer them. Thank you.